What's up everybody, and welcome back to DarkLogic Studios. This is Kalijyx here. I've decided that's my new internet name, I guess. I hope you guys like it. What do you think? Anyway, we are back with another episode of Attack on Titan, episode 28, Two Brothers, of the final season, part 2, and this is a crazy one. Let me tell you, but you, I'm sure, have already seen it. If not, I'm going to warn you, this video is going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen the latest episode of Attack on Titan, what are you doing with your life? Seriously, if you don't want spoilers, you might want to click on something else, but if you're all caught up, let's get to it. So in this episode, I guess I was pretty accurate in my predictions, which is not surprising, just considering these are the events that were going to happen, obviously, but you know, with the anime, sometimes they switch things around. But anyway, things definitely started off with a bang the first 2 episodes, but now stuff's really getting crazy, and I have a feeling I'm going to have a lot to talk about this time. As I said in my previous videos, I am going to avoid manga spoilers for the majority of this video, but at the end, I do want to talk about some things, so I will give you a warning when I'm going to get into manga spoiler territory for those of you who are anime only, so make sure you watch out for that. I'm going to go ahead and put a little warning in text on the bottom as well, because I'm going to premiere this video, and I realized last time that if people are coming late into the premiere around the end, and they're anime only, they're gonna get spoiled and not realize that I wouldn't have been able to warn them, so I'm gonna go ahead and do that, just to make sure I'm not accidentally spoiling things for anybody. But anyway, thank you for joining me, and let's go ahead and get into this episode. So in the last episode, we left off with Zeke getting shot by Captain Magath and Peak, and he fell off the wall. Aaron's still coming towards him. It's unclear at this point whether Zeke is still alive. So Galliard tries to stop Aaron. He bites his leg. His Galliard, little ankle biter over here. Aaron just he does his thing and turns around and starts beating the crap out of him and yelling, doing his roar. He gets hit in the head by another shot from the cannon. Pike starts getting attacked by Flock and the other Jaegerists, and somebody gets hit by the cannon. I thought it was Flock at first. And I was like, ha 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 ha, because I don't like Flock. But I also love how Peak is like, would you guys just piss off already? But no, it's some blonde guy, some random blonde guy. So, oh well, Flock sucks. But anyway, so Armin's like, we gotta deal with the cart titan. He almost gets shot, but Mikasa swoops in and saves him. Jean's like, we gotta get out of here. So they start flying off. Armin looks down and sees all these garrison soldiers riding up on their horses. The cavalry has arrived, although I don't think they're gonna get much done. So then Armin and the others regroup, and he's like, we can't fight them head on, we're gonna have to sneak behind them. The Marley soldiers and the garrison soldiers are shooting at each other. And Yelena, she's just like super chill right now. She's just sitting up on top of some building, like meditating or something. She's like, this is fine. So then we see Zeke inside his Titan, and his whole back is like shot off. But he's still alive. He opens his eyes, and he's kind of thinking to himself, like, what just happened? Was I shot? Did I fall? I fell to the ground? What's going on here? So then we see Reiner and Eren. They're kind of struggling. Reiner's holding Eren down. Galliard is down for the count. There is so much going on in this episode already. So Reiner reaches for Galliard and he touches his head, and this triggers a memory for Reiner. And he sees the moment when Marcel was telling Reiner, "You're never meant to be a warrior. I talked you up and criticized my brother to influence their decision." So, and if I remember right, we actually saw this full scene during the first part of the season. Oh wait, never mind. I misspoke. This is not triggering a memory for Reiner. Obviously, Reiner was there. This is triggering a memory for Galliard. Galliard is seeing his brother's memories. And he sees now that his brother was trying to protect him. And of course, this episode is called Two Brothers, and presumably it's referring to Eren and Zeke, but I love that the theme of the episode is encompassing not only Eren and Zeke, but also Colt and Falco and Galliard and Marcel. So we've got 3 different pairs of brothers that we're kind of touching on in this episode, and I love how they were able to kind of put all these relationships together and touch on them in this one episode to kind of go along with this theme. So Galliard sees this and he's kind of taken aback, he's kind of tearing up. Peak and Captain Magath are still fighting the Jaegerists and they realize Zeke is still alive. Zeke starts trying to get up and he starts getting ready to scream. Eren and Reiner both notice this, and Eren seems to not want this to happen, which I don't want to get into manga spoilers, but I'm going to come back to this moment and talk about it later. So there's a few moments in this episode that I want to talk about more in depth that is going to have manga spoilers. So if you want to hear me talk about that, if you read the manga or if you don't care about spoilers, I'm going to be touching on this a little bit later. But Eren seems to say wait, and I remember reading the manga and noticing that and being not sure if that was Eren or not saying it, or if it was Colt, who we see run up a moment later, who's also saying wait. So he tells Zeke, he's got Falco with him, and he's like, Falco drank the spinal fluid, he's like, please don't scream, don't turn him into a Titan. And Reiner is hearing this, and he's learning this for the first time, and obviously Reiner really cares about Falco, so he's obviously not happy to hear that. And so Colt reminds him that he is the successor of the Beast Titan. He's inheriting it to keep his family from going to Paradis, which I can't remember if something happened, because aliens that live in Marley are sent to Paradis as a punishment, and it's kind of like North Korea, where if one person does something bad, the whole family is sent to a concentration camp or whatever, which is screwed up. But anyway, I can't remember what exactly happened for his family to be sent to Paradis, but I'm in the process of rewatching the whole show. I just finished the first season, and I just want to say for a moment, we'll get back on track in a second, but the amount of foreshadowing in the first season is insane. Like, I don't know, it's just crazy rewatching everything after knowing everything that's going to happen. It's crazy. But anyway, maybe I'll talk about the foreshadowing Attack on Titan in another video someday, because it's something else. I don't know how Isayama does it. He is such a great writer. But anyway, and what I really like about this scene and this episode in general is it really, I want to say humanized Zeke, but Zeke has already been humanized to a very strong degree with his backstory episode and all that stuff. But in the manga, I remember I couldn't quite tell how much Zeke actually cared about Falco turning into a Titan, but in the anime, you can definitely see he is really sad about this, because Zeke also cares about Falco. He doesn't want him to turn into a Titan either, but he's very committed to his plan and what he wants to do. So he feels bad, but he's like, sorry, Colt. Actually, he doesn't even say sorry, which you should at least say sorry, Zeke. So Colt begs him, and he's like, look, you can do whatever you want, just don't involve my brother, let us get out of range before you do this. But Gabby rolls up on a horse. She wants Falco to get on and get him as far away as they can as well. And Zeke takes a moment, you can tell he's kind of struggling with this, and he says, I know only too well the love one has for one's little brother. But he's like, so it's a shame, and then proceeds to do his scream and turn everybody into Titans. So this scene is super sad, and it was sad in the manga. It's even more sad in the anime. So we see Falco and Nile and Pixis and all the other soldiers who had drank the spinal fluid wine. And Pixis is still drinking as he's about to turn into a Titan. He's just like, screw it, I already drank some of it, I might as well drink some more. I don't know if that's the same wine, but Pixis being Pixis, am I right? So anyway, the entire town just erupts with all these yellow lights. Tons of people change into Titans, and Obviously, this is just crazy. This is wild. I remember reading this part in the manga and just being like, holy shit, dude. Like, this is nuts. And also, what I like about this scene with everybody turning into Titans is it's kind of a callback to season 1, because after season 1, like, the story went into all these different directions, but we didn't really get another arc where it's like Titans in a town eating people. I think there was a couple scenes when we were with the Marley, when they used Eldians as weapons. And yeah, I remember they dropped them out of the ship and Zeke screamed and turned them all into Titans. Kind of a foreshadowing to this moment to show what Zeke was capable of. So I think this part is really cool because it kind of feels like we're returning to that first season with everything that's going on here with the Titans in Shiganshina, eating everybody. So I like that. It really kind of brings back those initial feelings of like fear and like, whoa, like Titans. Like, holy shit, there's mindless Titans everywhere. Really cool, but anyway. And of course the Marley soldiers are kind of taken aback. They don't know how to deal with this. They've been using Titans as weapons, but they've never had Titans used against them, as far as I remember, as far as I know. So they're screwed. They don't have any maneuver gear. They're completely unprepared. And what I also love about this scene, not just the visuals calling back to the first season, is they use one of the original songs that are used in the first season as well. One of the original soundtracks that you would hear, you know, when shit's going down with the Titans. So I just love that. That's really cool. Especially since I just rewatched the first season. Like, this episode is awesome. So then we get to see Falco's Titan, which I forgot how goofy he looked in the manga. He looks wow, just wow. He's I think that's one of the things I love about Attack on Titan, is not only are the Titans horrifying, but they are ridiculous looking. Like, they are horrifying and hilarious at the same time, and that is something about that combination just makes them incredibly unsettling. Like, I love that Isayama didn't just go for trying to make them look as scary as possible. He's just like, I'm just gonna make them look like they're gonna be smiling, they're gonna have crazy shaped faces. That's what's great about Attack on Titan. It is just such a unique property. It's the best. So then Zeke orders Falco as a Titan to go after Reiner. So Falco like slams into him, pushes him off of Eren, and Gabby gets up and she sees Colt. Colt is all burned up. He's a goner, which is pretty sad because I liked Colt, but he was too close to Falco when he transformed, and he's looking a lot like Armin did when he got burned up by the Colossal Titan at the end of the 3rd season. So Reiner's trying to hold Falco down and Eren at the same time, and he's like, I can't fight them both, Eren's going to get away. And he's kind of in shock. He's basically like, am I going to have to kill Falco? The one who's going to end him is me? So somebody punches Reiner. I can't really tell who it was, but then Falco like does this like flip and grabs Reiner's head with his legs and like throws him. So that frees Eren, and Eren gets up, tries to run. Reiner grabs him again, and then Falco jumps on top of Reiner, and he's trying to get to his nape so he can eat him. So Eren's like trying to kick Reiner in the face with his like severed leg. And then Peek and Magath shoot Zeke again, and Magath is pretty confident that they got him that time. And then we see Flock, and he seems to be the only one left of the Jaegerists that were attacking Peek and Magath, because he's like asking if anyone is still alive. Well, shoot, Flock. It's just too bad that you weren't taken out with them. And Magath is like, so that just leaves the Founding Titan. We got no need for your head, Eren, just your spinal fluid. So they start aiming, but before they're able to shoot, Armin pops up and shoots them with a thunder spear, I think, or causes some kind of explosion to happen. And Armin's like, we're too late. So then some soldiers try to like shoot Armin, but then of course Mikasa swoops in and saves him. And Peek sees her and she turns around. It's like, it's over for you guys. Just give up already. So Eren and Reiner are looking over at Zeke, and his body is evaporating or disintegrating. And Falco's just like, he's still nomming on the back of Reiner's neck. So Reiner sees this and he's thinking, so it's over now. Zeke is dead. Like, Eren can't use the Founding Titan power, so I can just let it happen now. I can just let Falco eat me, and then Falco will get to live, and I'll finally be able to die because you know, Reiner's got a death wish. But anyway, so he's thinking he's gonna just undo the hardening around his nape and just let Falco eat him. Gabby is watching this, and what a mix of feelings she's probably experiencing, because on one hand, she doesn't want Falco to be dead, but she doesn't want Reiner to be dead either. She cares about both of them a lot, so then Reiner's like, the one who will inherit the armor will be Falco. And he kind of closes his eyes. And he's ready to just let it happen, but then Falco becomes distracted by something. And it's Galliard. Galliard, like, half his face is gone, and he's like, I don't have the strength to heal my body, but I'm not gonna die for nothing. And he starts approaching Falco. He starts thinking about the memory he saw of his brother. And so I think he's kind of like able to die happy now, because he knows for a fact that he was better than Reiner as a warrior all this time. So he lets Falco eat him, and Reiner, I guess this pisses him off because he gets up and he punches Eren in the mouth. And then Eren hardens, and he kind of traps Reiner with his hardening ability as it kind of comes off of him and goes up Reiner's arm, kind of like what Annie did to Eren in the end of season 1. So Eren, he jumps out of his Titan, he starts running towards Zeke. Zeke is still alive. He's just like hanging out, like laying on the ground. And Zeke is like, I'm glad you noticed that I was still alive. We're so close, Eren. We're so close to achieving our dream. So Reiner tries to grab him, but then there's Armin and Jean and everybody, and they shoot Reiner with the Thunder Spear. Zeke is reaching out to Eren. Eren's running. God, this scene is so intense. And then everything kind of slows down. Gabby's got this big gun, and everybody's fighting. She freaking fires, and Eren's head spins off of his body and just flies through the air. And I remember this in the manga too. This was just crazy. This was a crazy chapter. So that was just completely unexpected. So then we get a flashback of Eren and Zeke, and they're talking. Eren is telling Zeke about his father's memory of killing the royal family, and he's like, if our father hadn't done that, then they would have taken back the Titan and everything would have stayed the same. You know, them dying is what let us live. And Zeke was like, so does that mean you believe father was right? And Eren's like, no, he was wrong. And I was wrong too. And he's like, if Eldians hadn't have been born, then none of this bad stuff would have ever happened, basically. And says to Zeke, the biggest salvation is never being born. Because who wants life, right? Better to just not exist, I guess. So he tells Zeke, I'll do it. I'll put an end to 2,000 years of Titan domination and keep moving forward. Right, brother? So Zeke gets all emotional and starts tearing up. And he's like, yeah, let's do it. Let's do it, Eren. And he says, I wish I could shake your hand, but that's probably not a good idea. So take this baseball. We're gonna save everyone. And it turns out Eren is a terrible baseball player because he does not catch it. Which I think is kind of interesting thinking about it now. It's a subtle thing, and that's something I'm going to talk about a little bit later because, again, no spoilers. But anyway, so then we get this interesting sequence of images. It's kind of like everything's kind of standing still. And Eren, we see that Eren's head has landed in Zeke's hand, which is kind of hilarious. Zeke's always a good catcher, so good for him. So then we see like this sequence of flashbacks, all this imagery kind of flashes across the screen, and then we wind up in the paths with Eren and Zeke, and see Eren, he's looking at this big pillar of light, which Zeke explains is the coordinate, which I remember talking a lot about way back in the day. The place where all paths converge. So Zeke's like, those who have the Founding Titan's power, who have royal blood, have to come here. And it's interesting because Zeke says he's been waiting for a long time in the past for Eren to wake up. And this is evident by his long hair and just how weary he looks. So obviously, you know, time doesn't pass in real life the same way that it does in the paths. Zeke said before, a couple episodes back, that when he was in the paths with Ymir and she was rebuilding him, that it felt like he'd been there forever. And it also feel like it was an instant, both at the same time. And Eren's kind of surprised like this. He's like, what? And then Zeke's like, I don't know, but your head was blown off by Gabby, and it fell into my hand, thankfully. And we made contact before you died. So that's good, I guess. And he's like, we succeeded, we obtained the power of the Founding Titan. And then Ymir comes out. He explains to Eren who she is, that she rebuilt his body, she's the founder. And he's like, I imagine this is where Titans are made. And Eren's like, so she's just been alone here forever? And Zeke's like, Eren, command the founder Ymir. Like, we're so close. And then Eren notices the chains, which of course are symbolic of the vow renouncing war, which Zeke explains. It's like, only you can move freely here. Only you can command the founder Ymir. And he's like, please Eren, tell Ymir, fulfill our dream, euthanize the aliens, make them so they can't have kids no more. And Eren's kind of giving him this look, and he turns around and he says, he's like, why would I ever do that? Like, you dummy, you thought I was really going along with your plan. Like, I was only playing. I just wanted to get here so I could do what I wanted to do. Which is not clear yet, but we'll talk about that later. And Zeke's kind of like begging him, like, please, like, this is the only way. Which, to be fair to Zeke, honestly, and I've said this before, considering the circumstances, is probably the best option. I mean, it screwed up the Eldians wouldn't be able to have kids anymore, but at least nobody would have to die. You know what I mean? Anyway. And Zeke is like, why, Eren? Why? Answer me. And Eren's like, because he gives that iconic line, I was born into this world. He comes to Ymir, he says, Ymir, lend me your power. He reaches out to her, but she walks past him. And he's very surprised by this, of course. So Zeke is obviously quite upset by this, but he's kind of like, well, I figured, although I'm disappointed. Like, I thought you, of all people, would understand, Eren, but I guess not. And it's our dad's fault. He's a bad man. So Ymir, like, kneels in front of Zeke, and Eren's like, what does this mean? And then Zeke explains to him that while he was waiting for Eren to wake up, he learned a lot of things during this eternity he spent with Ymir. And he's like, the founder can make anything, even these change, which, by the way, aren't really holding me down, they're not real. And he's like, she answers to me. I have royal blood, so she bends to my will. And he explains that to Eren as well, that unlike the King of the Walls or anybody of royal blood who was born from that lineage, Zeke is not actually tied to this vow to renounce war, because he is from a completely different branch of the royal family who never took this vow. So he's actually not affected by it. This is something that I didn't quite understand when I read it in the manga, but the anime makes it much clearer, which I am thankful for. I wasn't really entirely sure what the hell was going on when this was happening, but it makes sense, because if Zeke is a part of a branch of the royal family that never took that vow, then of course he's not going to be affected by it. It's not something, it was something that only the descendants of the King of the Walls were affected by. It didn't go across the water and affect everyone who had royal blood, so that's really interesting. Because you just kind of, at least I just kind of assumed that royal blood and then you're affected by the vow, but it makes sense that they wouldn't be the family in Marley. So that's pretty interesting, of course, because we've got like them both kind of turning the tables on each other. First Eren is like, haha, I'm not really here to help you, like, fuck you. And then Zeke turns around and was like, oh haha, I was faking you out, like, I got no chains on me. Like, I just wanted to make sure and see if you were actually on my side. Guess you're not. Fuck you too. So, funny. What a bunch of twists and turns. Okay. So, and then he goes ahead, Zeke, he turns around and says, so I figured out how to, nullify the vow renouncing war. That's a little confusing. First he says I was never affected by it, and now he says I managed to nullify it. Well, how did you nullify it if you weren't affected by it in the first place? What are you even talking about, Zeke? I don't even know. Let's go. But he says that he found out that Ymir has no will of her own. She's basically a slave to anyone with royal blood. And you can also tell, you notice Zeke's fingernails are very long, also indicating how long he has been here. So Zeke is quite understanding of Eren. He's blaming Grisha for everything. He's like, you're just brainwashed from our terrible father, and I'm going to save you. So, and put you on the right path, Eren. He's like, I will never abandon you. I'll fix you with the Founder's power. Which, honestly, if anybody needs fixing, it's Eren. So Eren tells him it's pointless, and Zeke is like, I'll save the world. When I save the world, it'll be with you. We're gonna do this together, brother. Whether you like it or not. So then they touch, Zeke touches their heads together, and there's this electricity, and then the episode ends. And, wow, what a crazy episode. So much happened. I just felt like I was just word vomiting throughout the whole thing. Trying to explain what was going on. But anyway, so crazy. Everything's really ramping up now. And that was so good. What's gonna happen? What does Eren really want to do? Why is he turning his back on Zeke? What does he want to use the Founder for? I know the answers, but I'm not talking about it right now because spoilers, but I am going to talk about it in like 2 seconds. So for you guys who are anime only, this is your warning. I am going to be talking about manga spoilers. So if you're gonna go, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Leave a like if you did. Subscribe if you want to see more. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you don't miss them. And let me know what you thought of this episode. Let me know what you thought of this video. Thank you again for watching, and join me next time. Alright everybody, if you are here for manga spoilers, for discussion of future Attack on Titan events, welcome to the post-game. Okay, final warning. We are going to start talking about manga spoilers right now, so if you don't want spoilers, then get out of here. So, a couple of things I just wanted to touch on real quick that happened in this episode is a couple of moments that very clearly appear to be foreshadowing of what is going to come when it comes to Eren's decisions. Now, the first one was when Zeke screamed. Now, of course, it happened very quickly. Easy not to notice if you weren't paying attention, but we do see that right before Zeke is about to scream, Eren actually reaches out and says, wait. Now, this was a big clue because, as we learn later in the episode, Eren really wasn't on Zeke's side at all, and his true intentions are to protect Paradis. So obviously, if Eren was completely on Zeke's side, then, well, maybe not. I think it's completely possible that Eren could have been on Zeke's side and still care about the people on Paradis, of course, and not want them to become Titans. But if Eren was as committed to Zeke's plan as Zeke was, he probably would not have wanted to tell him to wait. He probably wouldn't have had that physical reaction to Zeke about to scream. And who knows whether Eren... I don't know if Eren knew that Zeke was planning on doing this. I assume that he did, and was probably hoping he wouldn't. However, not only was Eren not in a position to be able to stop him, but he really couldn't have done it anyway without revealing that he wasn't on Zeke's side after all. But you know, obviously Eren wants to protect Paradis. He wants to save everyone there, so of course he's not gonna want Zeke to turn a bunch of people into Titans. And, but just like there was a sacrifice Zeke needed to make for his plan, it was also a sacrifice Eren had to make for his own plan. So I just thought that moment was interesting and kind of revealing of Aaron's emotional position. And it's vague enough where it doesn't really give it away. Like I said, it is completely possible for... It would have been completely possible for Aaron to be on Zeke's side and still not want this to happen to the people of Paradis. But it makes even more sense considering his actual position. Another moment that I mentioned as we were going through the episode is the moment when we have that flashback with Aaron and Zeke. And Zeke doesn't want to shake his hand, of course, for obvious reasons, so he throws Aaron the ball, and Aaron drops it. This is both incredibly subtle and weirdly on the nose, because it's kind of symbolic, I think, of the fact that Aaron really isn't on Zeke's side. Aaron literally drops the ball on his on Zeke's plan and goes against him, as we see later in the episode. So I thought that was kind of funny. If you're not really thinking about it, it could, you know, go right over your head. But I don't know, I just love the kind of subtle hints that Isayama sprinkles throughout this series. It just feels like everything that is written, everything that is shown has a meaning, no matter how insignificant it appears to be at first glance, which is something I really appreciate about his writing. So as we know, if you've read the manga, in the next episode, we are going to have those series of flashbacks with Grisha, and we're gonna sort of do, you know, the whole, almost like a Christmas Carol sort of thing, where Zeke and Aaron are going through the past, seeing all these memories, and kind of just bearing witness to it, at least at first. And then, strangely, Grisha is, of course, going to actually see them. We're going to see Grisha apologize to Zeke, which is going to be a very sad and touching moment. And the more we see Zeke's character development through the manga and the anime, the more I feel for the guy, because Zeke, in some way, he's kind of the main antagonist for our characters, but he is so... The humanization that is done on his character is so well done, and like, you can't help but really empathize with him and his position. And honestly, considering the situation, considering all of the options potentially available to everyone when it comes to dealing with the Titans, getting rid of the Titans, I really think that Zeke probably had the best plan, especially compared to Aaron's plan. Now, you know, of course, it would be very wrong to cause an entire civilization of people to be unable to procreate and carry on their society. But it's obviously even worse if you're literally wiping out 80% or more, potentially, of humanity, and along with it, you know, countless civilizations, cities, cultures, wildlife, the environment. I mean, Aaron destroyed 80% of the world, not just humans, mind you, but animals, you know, forests, habitats. He just flattened the planet. And obviously that is really, really bad. And I do want to address this a little bit further and talk a little bit more about this. Now, as you probably know if you watched my videos discussing this before, I don't agree with Aaron. I know there's a lot of people out there who do, and I get that. I understand why you would agree with Aaron if you do. I got a comment on the first episode review I did by Dragon Fellowship, and Dragon Fellowship, I hope you are okay with me reading your comment and responding to it in this video. But you definitely brought up something interesting that I would like to talk about a little bit. So Dragon Fellowship said, "It felt weird to hear you say Aaron was wrong for attacking Marley. He only pulled the trigger after hearing Willie literally declare war on him and his friends. and you said that you can't know what's going to happen in the future, yet Aaron's Titan is literally the Titan that has the ability to peer into the future. And again, something I really love about Isayama's writing is the fact that he is able to construct these incredibly difficult situations, where it really does feel like there's no right or wrong answer. And in a way, the situation and circumstances that this story ultimately results in is kind of the ultimate example of that. It really is hard to say what the right answer would have been. In my opinion, the place that Eren really loses me is the decision to wipe out all the rest of humanity in order to save Paradis. Now, I believe that Eren's decision to do this was premature for a lot of reasons. Yes, Marley did declare war, yes, they threatened to attack Paradis, and to be fair to Eren, it seems that they were fully intending to do so, along with whatever other armies that they could gather to their side. However, a threat is a lot different than an action. For example, somebody can threaten to kill you, but it's just words. Unless they're actually coming at you with a knife or pointing a gun at you, if you were to turn around and kill that person just because they said they wanted to kill you, that would put you in the wrong. Because unless you are in immediate danger, you don't know whether they are actually going to do what they say they're going to do. I mean, it would be the same as, say, North Korea, for example, has threatened to use nuclear weapons against other countries, but the reason that we don't turn around and destroy their entire country is because it's only a threat. And yes, not knowing whether someone, whether it be a person or an entity or a government, is going to follow through on that threat is a risk. But we take that risk because we value human life. We value the survival of our species. We value other cultures, other civilizations, other nations, other societies. And if our only focus were to protect ourselves, our loved ones, our country, our tribes, and just went around killing any threat, whether real or perceived, just to eliminate the possibility that something might harm us, that would be incredibly destructive, and it actually would harm ourselves as well. Because by doing that, not only are you throwing away your humanity, as Eren does, as Armin states that someone must do in order to fight monsters, which that was back when we didn't know Titans were human. But by simply destroying other people, you are eliminating the chance for things like, if you don't care about the human life itself that is being lost, then you are also eliminating the potential for scientific advancements, discoveries, new art forms, new technology, all of the things that humans strive for and build and work for. Despite all of our flaws, human beings possess incredible talents, abilities, the things that we create, the things that we do. We are the pinnacle of progress on this planet. And when you kill people, when you destroy societies, you are stifling that progress to an incredible degree. Now, obviously, Attack on Titan is a story, so I don't think most readers are really inclined to think that deep into it. It's really just who survives, But for me, those are the things that I think about, and I'm just one of those people who just thinks about things way too deeply. And, it's an anime. But that's my opinion on it. And yes, to be fair to Eren, I really don't believe he saw any other way out. He felt that this was the best option. He felt that this was the only way that he could save Paradis. However, we have seen throughout the story that Eren is driven by emotion. He is impulsive. He is reckless. He has been called reckless, suicidal, dangerous throughout the story by several of the characters, and they're not wrong. And the choice that he made is obviously a major confirmation of that. Because at the end of the day, Eren is wrong. He made an incredibly brutal choice. And I don't believe that Isayama wrote this story. In fact, I know for a fact Isayama didn't write this story to in any way suggest that mass genocide is ever a good solution for anything. Even if somebody is threatening you and your people with it, it just shouldn't be an option. And I believe Isayama makes it very clear that Eren was in the wrong. Armin refers to his choice as a mistake, and considering everything that was lost because of Eren's choice, I don't think there's any way you can logically argue that what Eren did was in any way okay. Now that being said, yes, Eren's Titan can see the future, and I believe it's going to come up soon in the anime where Eren is going to explain that when he touched Historia's hand, that he saw all of this stuff that was going to happen. And that's why he went ahead and did this, because he wanted to prevent it. However, we're not really explicitly told, it's not really clear how accurate these future visions that Eren has are. We don't know whether these were an absolute or something that could potentially happen. We don't know how clear these visions are. I mean, the potential, really, there is, if you think about it, there is an endless potential for different things to happen. That's why I don't really like the idea of fate or a fixed destiny, because there are so many factors and variables and cogs turning in the world around us that could potentially affect the outcome of things. Like, we as human beings tend to have this, we tend to see things in this sort of false duality. Like, we think that it could be things, an outcome to any given situation could either be one or another, and we tend to think of them in extremes. One outcome could be really good, and the other outcome could be really bad. And we don't really think about anything in between. And that is just, I think, just a natural part of how our brains work. For one, it's easier for our brains to think of things this way. It takes less energy, it's simplified. And for two, we have a limited perspective on what we can actually perceive happening. We also tend to hone in on the things that we feel are a threat to us. This is a survival instinct. That's why you tend to remember bad memories a lot more vividly than good ones, and they stick with you, and they have the potential, if they're extremely traumatic and painful, to give you mental health issues like anxiety or depression or PTSD, what have you. So because there is a large part of our brains that are still very primal, we are animals after all, our main goal, above all else, is survival. And unfortunately what that means is a lot of the choices we make tend to be pretty irrational. We are inherently emotionally driven creatures, and our emotions, I think, are greatly tied to our instincts. Our emotions are an extension of our survival mechanisms. It's part of that. They tend to work, they seem to work in tandem together to give us the greatest chance of surviving. So, and with all that in mind, it certainly makes sense that Eren would make this choice. He has suffered numerous traumas, a lot of pain. He is an extremely emotionally driven individual, and isn't the type of person to really stop and think about, is this logical? Are there other options? And that's really the biggest difference, I think, between Armin and Eren. He can be an emotional character, but because of his intellect, he also thinks very logically. And even when he can't find a solution, he knows that there could be a solution that he can't see yet. He understands that. He doesn't lock himself in to this mindset, the false duality that it's only one thing or the other. And Armin is constantly trying to communicate, to talk. He wants to communicate with other nations. He wants to communicate with Eren. And I don't think he's wrong. The problem is that other people aren't willing to communicate. And that's not really Armin's fault. Now, in a sense, while I think he's right, it is what it is. Sometimes people don't want to communicate. Sometimes people are stuck with their belief. They don't want to see things a different way. Maybe they're not capable of seeing things in a different way. And no matter how hard you try, and even if you are in the right, it's not going to change anything. So, while yes, I believe Armin was right that the best option was to wait, to try to communicate, to consider all options, he wasn't able to adapt to the fact that nobody was willing to do that with him. So yeah, I don't think that's Armin's fault, but again, you can't force people to see things from your perspective, to work with you. And so that's why Armin wasn't able to come up with a solution, because despite the fact that he was in the right, there's too much working against him. And that's really an example, I think, of the cycle of violence, this cycle of abuse, the repeated history that Isayama is trying to demonstrate. Because when that cycle starts going, it's hard to make it stop. There are people who try to break the cycle, and Armin is one of them, but they only have so much power. And in Attack on Titan, that cycle of violence keeps going and going and going and going until it hits its most destructive potential, which is Eren destroying most of the world and most of humanity. That's why I say it is a cautionary tale. What Isayama is trying to say is that people, human beings, need to do everything they can to try and break the cycle when it is there. We need to stop and think, not let our emotions run away with us. Because what happens when you choose violence? Violence begets more violence. If you use violence against another person, that person is going to want to turn around and use violence against you, or someone you care about. And then you, or whoever you care about, is going to want to use violence against them or whoever they care about. And that is obviously incredibly dangerous. Revenge, the concept of revenge, is a cycle. And once you are able to stop and say, I'm not going to chase this desire to hurt others because I've been hurt, that's breaking the cycle, and that's ideally what should happen and what needs to happen in order to save lives, in order to save people from getting hurt. You know what I'm saying? And I don't blame Eren completely for this. Eren is just the final piece of the cycle. His choice, his actions are an amalgamation, almost an inevitability to everything that's come before him. Because it's not just Eren that made a poor decision. It was countless people in Marley, in the Eldian Kingdom, who made countless decisions leading up to this event. And to the credit to the King of the Walls, he attempted to break the cycle. He was one of the few people who really tried to stop the cycle of war. And he was willing to sacrifice a large number of his people to do so. Kind of like how Zeke was willing to sacrifice the Eldians, or I guess future Eldians, to save the world from the Titans. Now, of course, neither of these solutions were ideal, no matter what people were going to get hurt, whether it be the Eldians on Paradis eventually being wiped out due to the king's vow to renounce war, or Eldians not being able to have children anymore because of Zeke's euthanasia plan. But it's a way better option than just letting war and destruction continue on forever and ever and ever, to the point where humans, as a species, have been nearly wiped off the planet. Now, yes, there is about 20% of people left after Eren did this, and of course Paradis is still there. and humanity, the ones that are left, will eventually multiply, rebuild, repopulate, prosper, because that is a mechanism of nature. Humans, along with the rest of the natural world, will always do everything it can to survive and expand and grow. But think about everything that was lost. There are countless civilizations, technologies, knowledge, art, invaluable pieces of humanity itself that are gone because of Aaron's decision. And of course, most importantly, the loss of human life, which should be the most valuable thing that exists. So, yes, I believe Aaron was wrong, but I understand why he did it. I understand why people would side with him and agree with him, because that's a very natural thing when it comes to human survival and psychology. We are naturally inclined to protect ourselves and the ones that we care about. The loss of the people that we care about is going to affect us 1,000 times more than the loss of a whole bunch of people we don't know. That's why we can see statistics on the news and not blink an eye. But if we lose one person we love, it's devastating. It's just how our brains work. And again, we're emotionally driven creatures, and we can logically know that killing 80% of humanity and everything that is lost with it is a horrible thing, but our minds aren't truly capable of comprehending what that loss means. We know it's really, 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 really bad, but we don't have an emotional reaction to it. And that's why, despite how tragic the end of Attack on Titan is, I think that it would have been even more tragic for most readers, most viewers, if the tables were turned and it ended up that Paradis was destroyed. Because we are so attached to the characters on Paradis, the characters that we've been following throughout the entire story, that would be way more devastating and depressing of an ending than we got. Despite the fact that so many more people died in the ending that we did get. So logically we know causing this much destruction is technically way worse, but we can't and don't want to emotionally deal with the loss of the people, of the characters that we care about, that we are close to. So in a way, whether you agree with Eren or not, I don't really think there's any wrong answer. Again, like I mentioned, it's interesting, it's almost like a social experiment, and it's really fascinating to see where people stand on it and why. And I don't fault anybody for where you stand on this. I know I said that it was disturbing, and I was kind of joking around a little bit. It is a little disturbing, but I also understand that if you were on Eren's side, your focus is not that it's okay to kill all these people. Your focus is on that I don't want the characters that I care about to die. And that's perfectly natural and understandable. Now, if you do agree with Eren and you're really enjoying the fact that many people are dead, there might be something wrong with you, but for like 99.9% of the people who do agree with Eren, I'm sure that's not the case. So I really don't blame anybody for their position on this dilemma. There are endless ways that this scenario could have played out, and the idea that Eren had, the whole reason he did this, the reason Eren went as far as he did was because he wanted to cover all of his bases. He didn't want to take the risk of this threat manifesting. And again, in the real world, usually this would not happen for the reasons I mentioned before. For Eren, because he had this unlimited power, all of this power was concentrated into the hands of one person who was capable of making this happen. Too much power in one place is incredibly dangerous. And again, Eren made his decision based on flawed emotions, based on the assumption that there were no other options. But it was only an assumption. The mistake that Eren makes is believing wholeheartedly that there would only be one outcome unless he did something about it, unless he went this far, unless he killed so many people that there was no one left that had the power to harm Paradis. And not only that, but to, hopefully, he didn't know that this was going to happen or not, as far as I understand, that hopefully his friends would come and stop him and then be seen by the rest of the world as heroes, and that would then put the Eldian people into a favorable light to the rest of the world, or whoever was left anyway. And that was an incredibly risky decision, because he didn't know if his friends were going to make the choice to try and stop him. He had a very strong feeling that they would. He didn't know that they would be able to stop him, although it did very much seem like he went easy on them when they were attacking him. He didn't completely not give them a hard time, but he could have definitely killed them all if he really wanted to. And lastly, he could not have known that the people would see this and that they would turn around and see the remaining Eldians who stopped him as heroes. When I first learned that Eren was going to do this, my belief was that the only possible outcome this could have is that the rest of the world would inevitably hate Eldians and fear them forever and ever and ever. And apparently, that was my false duality. It was either we listen to Armin and hopefully find a peaceful solution, or we let Eren do his thing and ruin any potential possibility for Eldians to ever be accepted into the world again. And that was my limited perception. I did not foresee Eren having this plan to turn his friends into the heroes that stopped him. And then, of course, there is the fact that Eren's actions ultimately resulted in the Titans being destroyed after all, because of the actions that Mikasa took when she decided to kill Eren. She freed Ymir, and I don't think Eren foresaw that either. Again, we don't really know what Eren saw in these visions of the future. I mean, did he know that his friends were going to come and stop him? I guess just the fact that he knows his friends so well, I'm sure he was counting on it. I think at some point he actually even admits that he wasn't really sure how it was going to turn out. That he was taking a gamble, as people often say in this series. And I don't know if he knew that Mikasa was going to be the one to kill him, or that the act of her killing him was going to free Ymir and the Titans. It was going to free the Eldians from this Titan curse. I mean, maybe he did, but I don't get the feeling that he knew everything that was going to happen. And yes, Eren does get glimpses into the future, but they're just glimpses. They're not... He never had the full picture. He saw visions and interpreted them the way that he felt they were going to play out. And because Eren is, again, a highly emotionally driven character, because he has a propensity to let his anger control him and dictate his decisions, it's not surprising that Eren would see these potential future events and come to the conclusion that this is a threat, this is a scenario that I must prevent, that I must stop from happening. I cannot take the chance to allow this to be the reality. And considering his character, considering everything I just talked about, it makes sense. And again, this, as I've said before, this story is very much revolves around the instinct of human beings to survive. Survival is a very heavy theme in this story, and so is the theme of choice. The theme of what do you do when there's no good options? And even suggests, if you look at the additional pages that span way into the future, that it was all kind of pointless. Because yes, Paradis did prosper for a time. He saved his friends' lives. He did what he ultimately intended to do. He achieved his goal. He wanted his friends to live long, happy lives. However, this prosperity, this period of time when Paradis thrived, eventually ended. His friends got to live their lives, they grew old, they died, and for who knows how long after that, things were fine, but then eventually the civilization collapsed. And what we see at the end is this lone child walking across a landscape that's been reclaimed by nature, stumbling upon this tree that is very reminiscent of the tree that Ymir fell into, suggesting that the Titans are still potentially able to come back. They're still there, just waiting for a new host, and kind of leaving you with this sense that in the grand scheme of things, all the wars, all of the petty disagreements, all of the pain and suffering, at the end of the day is simply going to be forgotten at some point. It's all temporary. And at this point in time, during the life of this lone child, who is unaware, potentially unaware of all of that's happened, none of it matters anymore. It's all gone, lost to history and time. No matter what we do, no matter how much we love, how much we hate, no matter the joys or the pains that we experience, no matter how much beautiful or amazing things we create, no matter how much war and pain we cause, one day it's all going to be forgotten. One day it's going to be like it almost never existed. Which is a weird thought. I'm getting very existential over here, I guess. Anyway, I think that's about all I gotta say about it. I mean, I could probably go on and on and on, but anyway, I won't bore you any longer. I hope you enjoyed that I hope you enjoyed my TED Talk. Come back for next week's episode review. Maybe I'll have even more nonsense to spew at you. If you enjoyed this video, give it a like, subscribe if you want to see more. Hit that notification bell if you want to hopefully be alerted to when these videos come out. Not really sure how well those are working these days. Seems like YouTube has endless problems with them, but anyway. Let me know what you thought of all of this in the comments. And, I don't know. I think, obviously, I think that Attack on Titan is probably one of the most fascinating stories I've ever seen be told before. Has such depth and such complexities, and Isayama is just so incredibly talented at taking the complexities of human existence and putting them into a piece of art that is so good at expressing these complexities in a way that feels so visceral. So yeah, let me know what you thought of this video, let me know what you thought of the drawing, let me know what you thought of this episode, and come and join me again next week. I hope to see you there. Alright, thank you again so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.